What's going on, Fortnite fam? It's time to dive back into the action. This week we're giving you an inside look into what happens throughout a game of Fortnite. We'll show you how we break it down on the official broadcast and teach you about some of the basic stats that show you how well a trio played in the FNCS using EU's Qualifier 1 as an example. Let's go ahead and get started.
We are going to begin by breaking down timing of eliminations throughout a competitive game of Fortnite. Let's start by defining the different time frames within a game, beginning with the early game. Having a solid early game is crucial to having a chance at taking a victory royale. This time is spent dropping in from the battle bus, landing at your drop spot, looting up, and positioning yourself to prepare for the mid game. This all takes place though within the first zone. Using the last round of EU qualifier number 1 as an example, we see that the top 10 teams earned 21.17% of their eliminations during the early game. Of course, unless you're Metro, X8, and CRR, who got 45.83% of their total eliminations before the first zone. This is because they were contested in Slurpy Swamps by Kiriachi, Choose, and Stormy Right, who they dominated this off-spawn fight 4 out of the 6 matches against. Moving on to the mid-game, this is the 2nd through 5th zones, which is spent heavily rotating and positioning yourself for success. Things do slow down here quite a bit, with 2nd, 3rd, and 4th zones only accounting for around 15% of the total eliminations for the day, despite, however, being 9 minutes and 30 seconds long. This is where players are focused on their positioning, rotations, and storm surge tags rather than trying to fight other players. However, things change towards the end of the mid-game. This is where teams often need to rotate to the half-in, half-out zone, which is the 5th storm circle. A lot of players are eliminated trying to rotate here. Many of the top teams intentionally look to fight during this time to get their loot refreshed. Overall, the 5th storm circle accounted for almost 15% of the eliminations for the top 10 teams, the same as the previous 3 zones, but in 1/4 of the time. Not all the teams are quiet during this time though, such as Vino, Rezon, and Tayson. They had 34.29% of their eliminations in the 5th zone, showing that they were hyper aggressive at this stage. Once the 5th zone closes though, you are officially in the end game. From 6th through 9th zone, the storm circle gets smaller and smaller while moving to different areas of the map. These final zones are focused on controlling layers so that your team can capitalize on racking up as many eliminations and placement points as possible. No surprise though, in-game is also where the chaos, pandemonium, and aggression all meet and where the largest percentage of eliminations go down. In this qualifier, 48.53% of eliminations from the top 10 teams came in the end game, with more eliminations occurring in the later circles. The elims in that final 9th zone accounted for 18.24% of the total elims for these teams, really showing that in order to be successful, you had to make it to this point in multiple games and frag out. Vino, Tayson, and Rezon again stood out above the rest of the pack by having 34.29% of their eliminations in the final storm circle, which is interestingly the exact same percentage of eliminations they had in the 5th circle. Their plan is to fight in the 5th zone to get some much needed refreshes to continue to rack up those points. Next up, we wanted to focus on the difference between contested and uncontested drop spots. When you land at your drop spot and someone else lands in the same area, sorry, but this means you're contested. No one around when you land, congratulations, you've got your drop spot uncontested, and you can plan out the next stage of your game while safely looting. Contested drops make it that much more difficult to transition into the mid game. In the EU FNCS Open Qualifier round number 4, all of the top 5 teams found themselves uncontested. Most teams that were contested in 6 of 6 games came 17th to 30th. The main exception to this was Metro, CR, and X8, who placed 9th, a true outlier. This is just another example of the benefit of being uncontested off spawn and why your drop is a huge factor in the success of your overall game.
The next stat you may hear us talking about is solo impact. Solo impact is all about the eliminations and the placement points a player gets when their trio mates are eliminated. Again, using the FNCS Qualifier 1 in EU as an example, Guildhen had a solo impact score of 33, where the average across all 99 players was only 8.5. His teammates Champix and Janice had a score of 11 and 6 respectively, so Hen absolutely put in the work this weekend and it showed in their 3rd placement overall. It's pretty common for teams to have one player with a much higher solo impact than the rest, given the different roles in the trio. Aloft Void had a solo impact of 26, the second highest on the day, whereas his teammates Vistroki and Karma had solo impact scores of 13 and 10 respectively. When the game mode is trios, it can be difficult to understand each player's impact given a certain day. The solo impact allows us to understand the teammates who are on fire that day and deserve the praise. Remember, just because one member has a higher solo impact doesn't necessarily mean that they're the carry, it just means that they're doing the role very well. Final stat we're going to introduce is the Fortnite Battle Average, and this is based off the percentage of eliminations each player gets throughout the individual matches. Now, it may not sound like a lot, but if a player gets over 2% of the eliminations in a match or a set of matches, they'll probably be in the top 10 of players for that qualifier. You can see the categories that we've got on screen and how they're categorized for the Fortnite Battle Average. To note, only one player in EU or NA East was into the Elite category, which was again Guild Hen, who was able to get 3.46% of all of the eliminations throughout the day. The next highest being Vanish River on the NA East server, who had 2.78%. If you ever hear us on the broadcast talking of a player who has an over 4% Fortnite Battle Average, you know this is truly an exceptional performance. This is going to wrap it out for our topics today. We hope this new knowledge will aid your gameplay from Qualifier 2 and beyond. Until next time, we'll see you on the Battle Bus. Beep beep!